Narendra Modi earlier today. Making no bones about India's tough stance on terror, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, while chairing the virtual Shanghai Cooperation Organization or SCO summit, today told leaders of the member states, including Pakistan, that there must not be any double standards in combating terror activities, and the bloc must not hesitate to criticize countries that support cross-border terrorism as part of their state policy. No prizes for guessing, the reference was to Pakistan, even though it wasn't named, and these remarks were made in the presence of Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Prime Minister Modi added, there is a need for decisive action to deal with terrorism and terror financing, as terrorism has become a threat to regional and global peace. Prime Minister Modi called for expanding mutual cooperation among the member nations to deal with the menace. He said we have to fight together against terrorism that may be in any form or manifestation. Also in attendance were Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin. The virtual summit under India's presidency was attended by all 9 members, including Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and Iran, with Iran formally joining the bloc. Let's now take a look at what the joint statement or the New Delhi SCO declaration says. It reads, and I quote, the member states consider it important to build up joint coordinated efforts by the international community to counter the activities of terrorist, separatist and extremist groups, paying special attention to preventing the spread of religious intolerance, aggressive nationalism, ethnic and racial discrimination, xenophobia, ideas of fascism and chauvinism. Reaffirming their strong commitment to fighting terrorism, the member states are determined to continue taking active measures to eliminate the conditions conducive to the spread of terrorism, to disrupt the terror financing channels, to suppress recruitment activities and cross-border movement of terrorists, to counter extremism and radicalization of youth, the dissemination of terrorist ideology, and to eliminate sleeper cells and places used as terrorist safe havens. The statement also refers to the need for a joint fight against drug trafficking. Significantly, it also states the member nations emphasize that the principles of mutual respect for sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity of states, non-interference in internal affairs and non-use of force or threats to use force are the basis of sustainable development of international relations. We're asking on the show today, can these talks lead to real progress in the fight against terrorism? What does the coming together of India, Pakistan and China on a single platform really mean?
कुछ देश क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म को अपनी नीतियों के इंस्ट्रूमेंट के रूप में इस्तेमाल करते हैं, आतंकवादियों को पनाह देते हैं। एससीओ को ऐसे देशों की आलोचना में कोई संकोच नहीं करना चाहिए। एक्सेलेंसी, आतंकवाद क्षेत्रीय एवं वैश्विक शांति के लिए प्रमुख खतरा बना हुआ है। हम चुनौती से निपटने के लिए निर्णायक कार्रवाई आवश्यक है।
Now, in fact, a hybrid war is being waged against us. Illegitimate anti-Russian sanctions are being used on an unprecedented scale. I would like to emphasize that Russia is confidently resisting and will continue to resist external pressure, sanctions, and provocations. And in the current situation, our country continues to develop steadily.
The world today is undergoing transformation. Changes unseen in a century are unfolding at a faster pace. Human society faces unprecedented challenges. Unity or split, peace or conflict, cooperation or confrontation. These are the questions raised again by our times. My answer is this: the people wish for a happy life is our goal, and peace, development and win-win cooperation are the unstoppable trends of the times. We must rise to the call of our times. Keep in mind our founding mission and stay in unity and coordination to bring more certainty and positive energy to world peace and development.
All right, let's decode some of these important statements that were made by Prime Minister Narendra Modi and others during the SCO summit today, and in particular the joint statement that was issued at the end of it. I'm now joined on the show by Ambassador Suresh Goyal, former diplomat, and Professor Rajan Kumar, foreign policy expert, is also with us. Ambassador Suresh Goyal, let me start with you. As was expected, it turns out terror was the primary focus of this virtual SCO summit. Of course, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as I said, making no bones about the fact that this is India's top priority, and India will continue to, emphasize the need for the international community to come together to jointly fight terror at every opportunity available, at every international forum. What's, of course, very interesting is that, without naming Pakistan, it is very clear that the Prime Minister was referring to our neighbouring country when he talked about support for cross-border terrorism, and these remarks were made in the presence of Pakistan Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. Also interestingly, like I said, the New Delhi SCO declaration has repeated references to the need for a joint fight against terrorism. It talks about the need to eliminate the conditions that are conducive to the spread of terror, to disrupt terror financing channels, to suppress recruitment activities and cross-border movement of terrorists, to eliminate sleeper cells in places used as terrorist safe havens. When you read this statement, you would think almost every reference is to Pakistan, and yet Pakistan is a signatory to this joint statement. What do you make of that?
First of all, thank you very much for this question, and good to see you again after a very, very long time.
You too, sir.
Great. Now, it's a very complex statement, really. And when I read the statement and listened to the statement again on your news channel, I was really wondering, what does it actually all mean? The statement and the leaders are saying everything that they mean to say without really any hope of any member country converging together on the same issue. The statement talks about sovereignty, territorial integrity. Now, what has China done in Galwan Valley? And China is there. The whole Central Asia, which is part of the SCO, is a very complex geopolitical origin. It started as a manifestation of the Chinese aspiration to control the geopolitics of the area, Central Asia. Now, Central Asia is very, very important to India in terms of what our own political and strategic priorities are. Afghanistan, Pakistan, Turkmenistan. Please remember that a lot of our history has come from Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Central Asia. It's all there. And in that context, if we look at what is happening in Shanghai Cooperation Organization, is it actually looking at the political stability and safety and security of the region? I think we need to look at it very seriously, because eventually it has come to be a kind of the phenomenon, the kind of political play where China is trying to achieve its own ambitions in the region, and Russia is playing at the moment a second fiddle to China because of its own economic needs. On the whole, I would say that yes, it's a good thing that we have got a statement at the end of it. Whether the statement actually means anything, I'm being very realistic here, having been a diplomat, and therefore, rather than saying good words about everything, I'm trying to see what India has got out of it. So there is a good statement at the end of it. It's a good statement if every country goes by the statement. Unlikely. China is not going to care for the sovereignty, territorial integrity. China is going to care for what it wants in the region. Pakistan is playing as a younger brother to China. Therefore, to keep it short, I think we need to wait how it works out. It's a good thing that Iran has become part of SCO. because of its own political aspirations and political behavior, it will have a good impact on where the SCO goes. So that's a good thing. If Afghanistan is able to join SCO again, that will be a good thing. Till then, let us see how it plays out. I'm not going to be very, very assuring and positive in this respect because China and Pakistan together carry a lot of weight in SCO, and with Russia coming with China, we need to be cautious. Thank you, Neha.
Ambassador Goel, I have to say that I am actually with you 100% on that issue. I think we can all be forgiven for being cynical about the outcome of such summits and the statements that are issued. You know, when the Pakistan Prime Minister says at a multilateral forum, we must jointly fight terrorism, I think irony dies many deaths.
Absolutely.
Right? So let me now go across to Professor Rajan Kumar on this issue. Professor Rajan Kumar, you know, I really wonder what Pakistan was thinking while signing the statement that talks about the need for a joint fight against terrorism and elimination of terror safe havens and terror financing channels. At the same time, when I read another portion of this statement that the ambassador just referred to, that the member states emphasize that the principles of mutual respect for sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity of states, non-interference in internal affairs, non-use of force or threats to use force are the basis of sustainable development of international relations. I do wonder, what were China and Russia thinking while putting their signatures on this statement?
Thank you, Neha. Let me clarify a few things about Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Sometimes we forget that Shanghai Cooperation Organization is essentially for the Central Asian states. Yes, China is a member, Russia is a member, and of course India, Pakistan, Iran. These are the external powers. And coming to your specific question of terrorism, let me tell you that there is a difference between two types of terrorism, what Shanghai Cooperation Organization is talking about. There is a convergence of opinion, one on certain types of terrorism which are emanating or active in Central Asia and partly in Afghanistan. But there is a divergence of opinion in cases of terrorism which are emanating from Pakistan. For instance, yes, I completely agree with both of you that there is no consensus on how to define terrorism, how to understand terrorism. But all these states, they agree on eliminating terrorism from Central Asia, radicalism from Central Asia, and for instance, they agree on Al Qaeda. They agree on Islamic movement. They agree on Islamic movement of Uzbekistan. They agree on Islamic Revival Party of Tajikistan, etc. So there is an agreement on certain types of terrorist organization, and they have banned it. And this is not the first time that the Prime Minister has said. He has been saying it in all the forums, most of the forums. But when it comes to the issue of terrorism of Pakistan, as you rightly pointed out, so then there is a difference because Pakistan would not agree to that, and Pakistan is backed by China, also in the United Nations. Forget about Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So when it comes to banning the organization from Pakistan, then there is a problem. But also, let me tell you, because also raised, let me also say that although we often pick up terrorism as the main focus of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, but Shanghai Cooperation Organization's main focus is not terrorism. Terrorism is definitely one of the most important issues. For instance, if you have read the Prime Minister's speech, you have heard the Prime Minister's speech, and you also pointed out territorial integrity. Why is it important today? For instance, the Central Asian states are very small states. They have population of 2 crore population, 1.5 crore population, very, very small states, and they are surrounded by big powers like Russia on the one side, China, Iran, Pakistan, etc. And these countries are always threatened in terms of territorial integrity. So when Prime Minister is referring referring to territorial integrity, they are assuaging the fear. He's trying to eliminate the fear from the mind of some of the Central Asian states, which are feeling now threatened because of what Russia has done in Ukraine. So, for instance, Kazakhstan's situation is very similar to the situation in Ukraine. You have very high Russian minority population in about 20%, and they also want to be independent, like what you saw in the case of Ukraine. So Kazakhstan is very scared, and these states, Uzbekistan in particular, Uzbekistan has a very independent mind in Central Asia, and these states, they want to have an independent foreign policy. They want to, have because they have been traditionally been under the influence of Russia, and now in terms of economy, they have come under the influence of China. So now they know that these are the bordering states. The advantage that India has, that India is not a bordering state, so there is no fear of India occupying the territory or claiming the territory of any of the states. The second, so what these states are doing, the Central Asian states.
And India has never been an expansionist force. It has never been hegemonic.
Absolutely, absolutely. So India, these states, including Russia, sometimes we go by the narrative that that China and Russia are together. But let me tell you that Russia also does not want Chinese influence growing in Central Asia. I'll give you the example. To support the statement, Eurasian Union, the economic union of that region, has not signed a free trade agreement with China. Why? Because they fear that the Chinese influence is growing, and if China grows like this, the Russian influence will be minimal in the region. So Russia considers all these states as own backyard, and even today Russia is the main security provider of Eurasia. And for the Eurasian stability, broader Eurasian stability, Russia's role is important, and Russia would not like China to become very, very powerful in the region. So what Russia and Central Asian states are doing, they are trying to soft balance with bringing countries like India. All right, and if you see the way India's relationship has developed with Uzbekistan, for that matter, in the last few years, so you will realize that these states are very keen to develop strong ties with India, economic ties, security ties, and all kinds of ties, except probably Turkmenistan, which is anyway not the member of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. All the states, they want to have very close cooperation. So they are working on connectivity. They are trying to, trying to bring investment from India, and they're also trying to balance China and Russia with India. So for that stability of that region, India becomes very important. So we need to look the Shanghai Cooperation Organization from Central Asian perspective. As far as India, China, and Russia are concerned, they're also member of BRICS. They're also member of several other multilateral organizations, G20, etc. So for Shanghai Cooperation Organization, we need to understand our focus, India's focus, should be on stability, territorial integrity. India must ensure that territorial integrity of these states should be respected, and it cannot be tolerated that any third country tries to interfere. So that is important. Development, digital issue, and then connectivity, cultural connection, developing the route through Chabar. So these are the important issues, and that's why Shanghai Cooperation Organization is extremely important for India. Although what happened in the summit, many of the things that you see today in today's statement, they're very rhetorical, they're repetitive, they've been said many times. Do not expect much from this, but Shanghai Cooperation Organization, from India's perspective of what you call multi-alignment policy in terms of strategic autonomy, is extremely important organization. Two organizations are very...
Okay, let's dwell on that a little further. While I do not dispute the point that you're making about how perhaps the joint statement seeks to address the concerns of the smaller Central Asian countries that are members of SCO, but you can't help but consider the roles of countries like Pakistan, China, and Russia in their neighborhoods, and see the irony in all of this. I mean, it's almost as if you're saying that terrorism is fine as long as I am the perpetrator, but terrorism is a problem if you are spreading it. It's all very well to talk about respecting another country's territorial integrity as long as my territorial integrity is in question. As for yours, I couldn't care less. Frankly, when you look at Pakistan, Russia, China, that really seems to be the message. Therefore, you can't help but point out the irony, whether it is on the matter of terrorism or respecting the territorial integrity of other states. Ambassador Goel, let me come back to you at this point. I'm just playing the devil's advocate, and this thought crossed my mind. Iran has now officially joined this bloc today. Now, it is a 9-member grouping, and apart from India, the 3 most high-profile members unmistakably are China, Russia, and now Iran. How do you think the United States of America views this grouping now and how it is shaping up? Because some might argue that all of these countries that I just mentioned are inherently, intrinsically anti-America. And India obviously has a very, very important relationship with the United States. It cannot be overstated, especially in the wake of Prime Minister Modi's historic state visit to the United States. How do you think India is likely to maintain this tightrope walk?
2 or 3 things here, Neha. And I listened to Professor Rajan Kumar with a great deal of interest. Unfortunately, I have been dealing with Central Asia in my official capacity for a long time. And therefore, I know that there are several things which we need to be quite conscious about. Now, coming to the USA, first of all, Central Asia. If you look at Central Asian republics, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyz Republic, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, none of these, I beg to submit, none of these have shown any anti-US bias. None of these, I'm repeating, shown any anti-USA bias. And therefore, for the USA to have an organization of the Central Asian republics working together for maintaining stability and security in the region is not a no-no. It is basically because that organization was formed with the help of China and Russian Federation, which gave it a distinct political coloring that there were questions and everything. Number 2, for us, Central Asia, I've said, has been a part of our history. Islamic history. Most of our Mughal history has come from Central Asia. For us, we wanted to join SCO because of all these Central Asian republics being there, and because of Islam, including in Afghanistan and Pakistan, supported by China. And China, please believe me, China has worked actively to help terrorism in India. With China and Pakistan being there, working with the Central Asian republics, there was a huge concern for us as to where we are going to go. So we had to be there, even though the Chinese president at that time, when India joined, clearly said that SCO should not become a forum for discussing terrorism issues bilaterally. I mean, he was limiting the fact that there were 2 countries in the region, in the membership, who were actually our problem. But it happened. Therefore, what I'm saying here is that if you look at the current geopolitical dynamics, I think the USA should be happy to know that there is one organization where there is a possibility of a dialogue with Iran, even if indirectly. We are happy because there is a forum where we can actually work with countries with different interests in terms of dealing with our own critical concern. It's a problem that Pakistan and China have to face together on how they are going to deal with our concern against terrorism. Let us see how it turns out. But it is going to be a very, very complex geopolitical equation. Neha.
A very complex geopolitical equation indeed. The very fact that you actually had India, Pakistan, China coming together today on a single platform itself says so much about the complexities of this equation. Do you want to come in here, Professor Rajan Kumar? Yes, this is a Central Asian alliance. But, there's been so much talk even about the Quad in recent years, for example. China has been whining about it endlessly because it believes that it is aimed at containing its growth. its influence. Therefore, how do you think the United States is likely to see the coming together of countries like China, Pakistan and Iran under one umbrella with India at the SCO?
I think US is definitely not happy about this organization because if you see the history of this organization was branded by the Western writers as the NATO of the East. Although that's an absolute myth. This organization can never be the NATO. There is no military alliance between any of the countries that you see. There is no military alliance between even Russia and China. Forget about other countries. And as far as India's policy is concerned, India has made it very clear, and our External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has repeated a number of times that India cannot be a partner. India cannot be a part of military alliance. And he also said that we're living in a different world, multipolar world, different world. So that period of alliance is over. Although that is, in my view, that is not over. But India's policy is not to become part. So what I'm trying to say here, whether it's Quad or even Shanghai Cooperation Organization, India, they are concerned about security, but they have become largely security and political organization. A kind of speech the Prime Minister gave today. So he was not talking about just the security part. He was talking about the digital. He was talking about the Vasudha Kutumbakam. He was talking about issue of food inflation, environmental security, etc. So this organization, which started as a security organization, started initially in actually 1996 to solve the border issues between different countries. It was called Shanghai 5, and 2001 it became Shanghai Cooperation Organization when Uzbekistan joined it. So it started as a security organization with focus on separatism, terrorism, and radicalism, etc. But now it has become a political organization, political security organization. And let me tell you that the only reason why this organization is not called an organization of authoritarian states working against the United States, because India is also a member. And as Ambassador Goel rightly pointed out, if you know the foreign policy of these smaller states, all the smaller states of Central Asia, they today want to have a closer cooperation also with the United States. Just 2 months back, Secretary Blinken was visiting different capitals, and he met different foreign ministers of Central Asian states. And they're very keen, but although it's going to be difficult, so anti-Western rhetoric, yes, and that's a part of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But Shanghai Cooperation Organization also talks about the issue of multilateral reform. It talks about the issue of global security, environment, climate change, etc. Yes. So what I'm trying to say is this: Quad is not in contradiction with Shanghai Cooperation Organization. India's policy is of engaging with all the important powers. Our relation with China is very complex. We are member of BRICS, and we are cooperating with China. We have border tensions with China, and we stand very firm on that. But we also have trade. China is the second largest trading partner.
Absolutely.
So it's a very complex relation that we are dealing with in China. Yeah. So it's very complex, and our policy is to have a relationship with all the important powers. And
I agree. One thing that all of us agree on is that India has made it abundantly clear to the most powerful country in the world, the United States of America, that it's never going to be its ally. This is only a friendship or a partnership. And India will maintain its strategic autonomy. It has made that abundantly clear, especially since the beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war. But at the same time, I think as we wrap up this discussion, one can't help but ask this most fundamental question. Following this summit, following the statements that have been made, following the New Delhi declaration that has been issued, that has been signed by each of these member states, can we really expect any concrete progress on the issue of terrorism, or even as far as countries respecting each other's territorial integrity is concerned? I think if you're an Indian, you can be forgiven for being cynical, because we have been at the receiving end on both these counts for a very long time now. But on that note, Ambassador Suresh Goel and Professor Rajan Kumar, thank you so much for joining me on the show. Thanks for your time and perspective. All right, on that note, let's take a quick break, but there's lots more on the other side. Don't go away.
मैं इमरान अहमद खान नियाजी सबके दिल से हल्फ उठाता हूँ.
When Imran Khan came initially into politics, he thought his personal popularity would be sufficient for him. It didn't happen.